The brilliance of Tales from the Crypt. The bribe lies in its ability to merge everyday realism with the extraordinary consequences of human folly. The film begins by establishing a mundane, bureaucratic setting, where the protagonist, a mid-level official named Robert, is introduced in his drab office environment surrounded by stacks of paperwork and the hum of fluorescent lights. This opening emphasizes the monotony of his life, making his later moral decisions all the more compelling. Robert is depicted as both ambitious and insecure, traits that the narrative exploits to show how even small ethical compromises can escalate into life-altering situations. The inciting incident occurs when a wealthy developer offers Robert a bribe to approve a construction permit that violates city regulations. The scene is crafted with meticulous attention to detail. The weight of the envelope, the subtle hesitation in Robert's hand, and the almost imperceptible glint of greed in his eyes. This moment crystallizes the moral conflict at the heart of the story. As Robert wrestles with his decision, the film delves deeply into his internal struggle, using visual metaphors such as reflective surfaces and distorted mirrors to represent his fractured conscience. The suspense builds as Robert rationalizes his choice, convincing himself that he can escape consequences. The pacing of the story is deliberate, allowing tension to simmer before escalating into psychological horror. Supporting characters provide contrast and commentary, particularly a morally steadfast co-worker whose integrity highlights Robert's ethical decline. The interplay between these characters adds depth to the narrative, showing how external pressures and personal ambitions collide to shape decisions. Once Robert accepts the bribe, the story shifts into a sequence of escalating consequences that are both ironic and terrifying. Everyday objects become instruments of retribution, and Robert's attempts to manipulate events backfire spectacularly. One of the most striking sequences involves a series of increasingly bizarre accidents that seem almost orchestrated by fate itself, reflecting the series' trademark blending of horror and dark comedy. The film's use of suspenseful cinematography amplifies these moments. Low angles, tight close-ups, and sudden cutaways contribute to an atmosphere of impending doom, while strategic lighting accentuates the moral darkness consuming the protagonist. The narrative also explores the psychological toll of guilt. Robert becomes increasingly paranoid, imagining observers and supernatural consequences lurking around every corner. The subtle incorporation of horror elements ensures that tension remains high without overshadowing the story's moral message. By the climax, Robert's carefully constructed schemes unravel completely. The bribe that once promised success transforms into a vehicle for his downfall, culminating in a series of poetic, almost theatrical reversals. The resolution is both shocking and satisfying, providing closure while reinforcing the film's central theme. Unethical behavior invites inevitable consequences. Beyond its suspenseful plot, The Bribe resonates as a social commentary on human susceptibility to corruption. It examines how ordinary individuals can be drawn into morally compromising situations by ambition, greed, and societal pressures. The film succeeds in making the audience empathize with Robert, even as he makes increasingly poor choices, because his internal conflict and vulnerability are portrayed with realism and nuance. Every visual and narrative detail serves to reinforce the story's moral core, from the oppressive office spaces to the fleeting moments of human weakness that catalyze dramatic events. The final scenes are especially memorable for their combination of horror, irony, and dark humor, hallmarks of the Tales from the Crypt series. These elements ensure that while the audience is entertained by suspenseful storytelling, they are also left with lingering reflections on justice, morality, and human nature. The Bribe is an exemplary episode that transcends its horror roots to offer profound insights into the consequences of ethical compromise, the perils of ambition, and the subtle ways in which greed can corrode character, all while maintaining a compelling narrative that keeps viewers engaged from start to finish.